Hello friends. How are you all? I hope you're doing great. So we are back with an super amazing series on what if Naruto and overpowered angelic bloodline and abilities, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Now let's begin the story. In the shinobi world were the 5 great shinobi nations, the lands of fire, earth, wind, lightning, and water. Each were ruled by a lord or daimyo, and in each of these nations was a hidden village that trained and brought up future generations of shinobi. These shinobi would determine the power of the hidden village, and numbers mean strength. However, among the many nations, shinobi or not, the 9-tailed beasts resided. In time, they were all sealed into humans. These humans became Jinchuriki and were living vessels of the demon's power and soul. Hour of the human sacrifice. One of the tailed beasts, the 9-tailed fox or Kyuubi no Kitsune, was found attacking the hidden village of Konoha one particular day. No one knew how or why, but the Kyuubi was completely annihilating the shinobi and many lives, shinobi or not, died. They died trying to protect the people, and defeat was to be expected, as the 9-tailed fox was the strongest of the tailed demons or Bijuu. It was said that the Kyuubi had the ability to cause tsunamis and earthquakes from just a swipe of its tail. So the villagers and shinobi died protecting their village, and still, none of their techniques or weapons proved to be useful, and all were useless to the power of the 9-tailed fox. The 4th Hokage, leader of Konohagakure and strongest ninja of said village, could not do anything either, and this meant that he would have only one option left. Performing a forbidden technique, he called upon the god of death, Shinigami, and made a deal with him. This deal was that the Kyuubi would be defeated and sealed into his newborn son, but in exchange for this was the soul of the 4th himself. This was the only way to defeat a demon of this degree, to seal the soul and power of an eternal demon into a living vessel whose chakra coils had not developed yet. Just before his soul was taken away, he asked the Shinigami to promise him something. The Shinigami, having gained respect for the late 4th Hokage and what he was about to do, agreed. Please watch him. I doubt the village will even consider my wish that he be treated as a hero, said the 4th, sadness evident in his voice. I see. Then I will fulfill your request. I will watch him, said the Shinigami in a deep voice. I see. Then, please begin, said the 4th as he prepared to die. However, he first took a last look on his son and spoke his last words, saying, I'm so sorry for the fate I've doomed you to, son. Please forgive me, my wish is that you be seen as a hero, not a target of hatred. Then the Shinigami began the ritual and forcibly took the soul and power of the Kyuubi and sealed it into the body of the newborn, and then took the soul of the 4th as his compensation and left, but not without saying, soon, the time for your true awakening will come, young one. And not even the demon will prevent you from reaching your destiny. Celestial angel. Then the Shinigami left, leaving no trace of his presence. Although he helped protect the village and its future generation, the 4th Hokage never received his wish. 5 years from the sealing of the Kyuubi and the death of the Yondaime Hokage, 4th Shadow of the Leaf, a little boy was running from the group of people behind him. Eventually, due to his small physique, they caught him. Then they proceeded to torture, hurt, and maim the little boy till he was in a near-death state. We've done it. We've killed the demon, said one villager, and then cheers of agreement soon followed. However, they were cut off as masked figures suddenly arrived at the scene. What have you done? Said the weasel-masked Anbu. We've done it. We've done what the 4th couldn't do, said one of the villagers. How dare you? You are the true demons here, as he is only the container, not the demon. No, he isn't. He is the demon. I've heard enough, said the weasel-faced Anbu. Anbu, leave none alive. And with that, the Anbu momentarily disappeared, and after a second, the bodies of the villagers lay on the ground. All dead. Then picking the boy up, the Anbu brought him to the Anbu hospital, as the regular hospital would most likely do more harm than help. The 3rd Hokage, Saratobi Hiruzen, rubbed his head in annoyance once again at the paperwork that he had to do. Then all of a sudden, the door opened, and a cat-faced Anbu went to the Hokage and spoke, saying, Hokage-sama, Naruto-kun is in the hospital again. And with that, the Hokage used body flicker, Shunshin, to teleport to the boy. Then Naruto-kun, are you awake? Said the Hokage. Gigi, said the boy, rubbing his eyes and then suddenly arching his back in pain. Naruto. Be careful. You're not fully healed yet. What happened, Gigi? Why am I here? Do you not remember Naruto? Last night, said a cat-faced Anbu. And with this, the memories came flooding back in and Naruto suddenly cried. Why, Gigi? Why? Why do they keep attacking me, said Naruto. I'm sorry, Minato. I couldn't fulfill your last wish, the 3rd thought in his mind. That night, as Naruto slept, he found himself in a clear forest meadow. Around him were flowers of all kinds, and the meadow looked like it stretched for miles after miles. Naruto then began to walk around the meadow, wondering just exactly where he was. Welcome, said a figure, obviously female from the tone of voice. Naruto then turned to see just who this was, and when he turned, he saw a beautiful woman dressed in a long white robe that was supposedly like a tunic as it somehow was wrapped around her body. She wore golden sandals, and on her right wrist was a golden bracelet, while on the other wrist was a silver one. She wore around her neck a necklace with a crescent moon and a star. She had fair skin and pure golden hair that curled at the edges. Her eyes were golden color, and looking at her, one would feel security and peace. She wore a smile on her face as she faced Naruto, and then she began to speak. I am Hinako, the goddess of eternal blessing and harmony. I have seen your life, and I am not pleased. B.A. Hinako-chan, where are we, and why are we here? We are in the meadow of harmony and we are here to discuss you. Me? You okay then. Now listen carefully. In the world are different life forms. Plants, animals, humans, demons, and angels. Just as Naruto was about to interrupt, she gave Naruto a look and he immediately went silent. In society and in current philosophies, angels are known as the embodiments of light and good. However, that is not completely true. Angels are neither good nor bad, and they live for different reasons. Each angel is special in his or her own way, and because of this, we angels have different abilities. Some angels specialize in combat, some in flying, some in healing, some in elemental combat, and some in stealth. I see. Please go on then, Hinako-ni, said Naruto, absorbing the newfound information. Among the angels are the celestial angels. Oblivious to the outside world, Naruto was actually being watched carefully by the Hokage and the three Anbu. I'm so sorry, Naruto. I failed you and your father, forgive me Minato. I hope you're alright Naruto-kun. You'd better get well soon Gaki. Those stupid fools will soon see who you truly are Naruto-kun in due time. And you are a celestial angel. One of my own. Wow. I'm really an angel and a celestial as you say I am? Yes, it is true. But I'm not smart though Ni-chan. That is because of something that those foolish humans put on you, a restricting seal. A restricting seal? What's that in WY? It would seem that those foolish humans believe you to be weak. WY, but then Hinako took a hold of his hand and pulled him towards her while uttering words from a different language. Purgatio vox of celestial angelus, cleansing power of the celestial angel. Take a habitum of mu successio manus, take a hold of my descendant's hand. Quad purgo him intum porliter, and cleanse him eternally. And immediately different seals began to show up on Naruto's whole body, including the Shiki Fuin, seal that keeps Kyuubi, and one by one, they each floated over his skin and broke into pieces like broken glass. The seals turned white when they broke, then they faded away, and his clothes also ripped under the pressure. The bright light then engulfed the meadow, and Hinako covered her eyes with her hand while staying at a safe distance from Naruto, who was screaming in pain. After the light cleared out, Naruto was seen on the ground and a white tunic covered him, and he also had pure white wings, not quite big though. Next to him was a tall figure of a man. He had blood-red hair and was clothed in a dark red yukata, which was adorned with golden foxes that came together on the left side of the yukata. The foxes looked as if they were real as they were golden color. The man had shoulder-length red hair that was neatly tied in a ponytail. The man wore black sandals, and on his right ring finger was a golden red ring, also adorned with a fox. Besides the ring, he also wore a black necklace with a fox charm hanging on it. The man's face was well developed. He looked very mature and had an aura that demanded respect. On his cheeks were 3 thick whiskers, and he seemed to have a shocked face, and long fangs could be seen, extending from the inside of his mouth. What? Where am I? Welcome Kyuubi to my domain. I am Hinako, the goddess of eternal blessing and harmony. Wa. Hinako-sama. Then Kyuubi bowed down on his knees. Please stand Kyuubi. I am pleased to see that you are quite respectful, but we must discuss your host, Uzumaki Naruto. Kyuubi then stood up with a solemn look on his face and then spoke, I see, so what do you wish to speak of, about the kid? Well, he is a celestial angel, one of my own, and considering what has been happening to him since his birth, I felt the need to speak to him and to tell him of his heritage. The celestial, I understand what you mean Hinako-sama, but I've been doing all I can for the little kid. I heal him when he is hurt, but the seal kept my power from interfering. I see. Thank you for helping Naruto-kun, Kyuubi. I was there when Minato-kun had to seal you, and I know that it was that disgusting snake man Orochimaru who caused you to go berserk. You know. I thought I would be punished for the near destruction of that village, but I see that you know what really happened. Well, anyway, concerning the kid's heritage. I will tell him myself. He needs to know the truth, everything. Then Kyuubi turned to Hinako, eyes wide. Everything? You mean everything? Of course, he deserves to know everything, but we must train him. Train him? Are you sure Hinako-sama? Yes, Kyuubi. I really do mean it. His wings have already started to develop so we must plan now. We will speak to him when he wakes up. Of course Hinako-sama. Now, concerning his training. Okage-sama, he still hasn't woken up and probably won't yet for a long time. Are you sure you want to wait? Said the Medicanbu. Don't worry, Rin. I will wait, said the old Hokage. Hi Hokage-sama, Rin said, and then left the room to get more medical supplies if needed. So besides the two of us, there will be another who will also teach him. Yes, Kyuubi. There will be another. However, his time has not yet come. I see, so for now, it will just be the two of us. Yes, for now anyway. The two of us are enough for him. Well, since the seal is gone, am I able to be free? Well, you will stay in his mind for a while, but you are free. In a way, but don't worry. The cleansing spell I used not only cleansed him for those restricting seals, but his whole body. He no longer has those whisker marks or the ignorant brain that he once had. However, he should still be able to call upon your chakra if needed. Okay then Hinako-sama. Well, I am happy that his ignorance is finally gone. What about the whisker marks and the sudden growth spurt? Surely, the Hokage will notice, or probably already has noticed, that. No, only you and I know of this. I have cast an illusion on him for the time being so that no one will know of the sudden changes. However, while I am not pleased with the current Hokage, I am glad to know that he has been trying to protect Naruto-kun, even if it's not enough, at least he tries. So you will tell him then? In due time. I see. Then Naruto's wings slowly faded away and his eyes slowly opened and he blinked. Naruto POV. What happened? Where am I? Then as I was thinking, I remembered. Inako ni. What happened? I turned to her immediately and then saw some tall guy with red hair next to her. I was about what? Who's the tall guy with red hair? Naruto-kun, please calm down. I will give you all of your answers. Then after hearing her voice, I calmed. It was amazing. When she talked, it felt like peace overtook me. Well, Kit, since you want to know who I am. Let me tell you a story. I was about to say something, but then Hinako ni gave me a serious face, so I just closed my mouth and listened. One day, there was a fox with his mate and kits. The fox and his family lived in a cave in the middle of a forest. The fox left the cave to hunt for food for his little kits, but when he came back, his kits and mate were dead. The fox was obviously angry and when he smelt the cave, it smelled of snakes. So the fox left the cave and smelled the air for any snakes. The fox smelled snakes in the north, in a village called Kanahagakure. The fox then went berserk because of the sudden loss of his only family. As the fox was destroying the village, thinking that the snake man was there, a blonde ninja, known as the Yondaime Hokage, sealed the fox into a child who was just born. Why are you telling me this? Screamed Naruto, fearing what the answer would be. You're the child, Naruto. The fox was sealed into you. Adifacio pectus pectoris ud illic existo haud lies, open the heart, that there be no lies. And no. It can't be. The Yondaime killed it. He killed the nine-tailed fox. Then this time Naruto screamed and was about to run, but he didn't seem to notice that Hinako had been casting a spell and had just finished. Permissum him animadverto verum, let him see the truth. Non-deceptio. No deception. Then Naruto's body shone white and he fell to the ground on his knees, the light still shining. Then the light slowly faded away and Naruto could be seen, on his knees. Kyuubi was not lying Naruto-kun. Now please stand up. Hinako was already in front of Naruto when he turned his head up and she was holding out her hand, a gentle smile on her face. Naruto then took her hand and stood up. The truth sometimes is hard to accept, but you must know the truth regardless the pain. This is something that you have to understand and accept Naruto-kun. The effects of the spell were clearly seen as Naruto's face was one of calm and understanding. I understand completely Hinako ni. I will listen. But Naruto-kun. Now you have probably realized the truth about the Kyuubi from Kyuubi himself, right? Naruto then nodded to show that he did realize that. Well, it really wasn't Kyuubi's fault as he was trying to avenge his family. This snake man that Kyuubi speaks of is one of the three Sannin, Orochimaru. At the mention of his name, Kyuubi clenched his fists in anger and growled. However, Naruto's reaction was quite similar as Naruto not only clenched his fists in anger and growled, but he immediately screamed. What? When I see him, I'll. Naruto then began to speak of different torture methods, none of them pleasant. It's fine, Kit. Well, I'm happy that you also wish to destroy that disgusting man, then Kyuubi sneered in disgust. You are currently not strong enough to do so. Naruto was about to retort when Kyuubi brought a hand to his mouth, silencing him. However, both Hinako-sama and I will train you and then that snake man will be nothing. So do you accept, Naruto-kun? Hinako now spoke. Of course. I accept. Good. However, before we start training, Hinako-sama has something to tell you first. Okay then Hinako ni, I'm listening. Naruto then sat down on the grass and was waiting, listening attentively. Okay, then Naruto-kun. I will tell you, but you must keep silent. Naruto nodded, showing that he was indeed listening. Well, Naruto, I will speak to you of your heritage. Naruto's eyes widened, but he still kept silent regardless. The Yondaime was far too gracious, and when he sealed Kyuubi, he did not take just any child, but he took his own. Naruto, the Yondaime Hokage Akanamika's Minato, is your father. Naruto then became angry that it was his idol and father who had made his life a nightmare, but before he could scream in rage, Hinako continued. However, Minato-kun did not intend to make your life a nightmare, Naruto-kun, as his last wish was that you be treated as a hero. It is obvious that the villagers and some ninja failed to do so, as they are too ignorant to see the difference between a demon and its holder. So your father died that day heroically, but his last wish was ignored by all, except for a specific few. I can say that your father was indeed very heroic and was a great leader. He loved the village very much, but if he saw what had happened to you, he would no longer be with the Shinigami. But would have actually risen from the dead just to destroy those ignorant villagers who failed to listen to his last wish. Naruto was now looking down, no longer angry at his father, but he was actually deep in thought. Does my father really love me? If he was alive, would he care for me? Then he suddenly jolted and looked up at Hinako. What about my mother? Then Hinako smiled at Naruto and began to pace around the meadow. Your mother was Kushina Uzumaki. She did not leave you or abandon you, but instead, she unfortunately died of childbirth as the Kyuubi's attack caused her to suddenly become far too stressed and she gave birth to you prematurely. The stress of the Kyuubi's attack and her premature labor caused her to die. However, she loved you very much, and while she only held you for a little while, she loved you very much and did not leave without a parting gift. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this. Parting gift. She left you, her bloodline. You are the last to have the Uzumaki bloodline, Donum de Angelis or the Tenshi, gift of the angel or the heavenly gift. Uzumaki bloodline. Besides that, your father also held a bloodline, the Vox Vocis de Ventus or the Ansei no Kase. The voice of the wind. So I have two bloodlines. Naruto exclaimed. Yes, you do. However, to be able to fully utilize the power of your two bloodlines, you must be trained. So you and Kyuubi are going to train me, right, Hinako-ni? Naruto said, tilting his head as he said this, making him look quite cute. Hinako laughed and said, yes, both Kyuubi and I would be teaching you. That's awesome. Ha ha ha, you find it fun for now, but when the the training's over, you'll hate me. But what about Hokage Jiji, won't he notice? Oh, don't worry, we will train you secretly. Awesome. So when do we start? It was a dark night and a storm could be heard. Thunder began to storm out and wind began its ceaseless howling. However, despite the cruel weather, in an Anbu hospital room were two figures. Both sleeping. The first figure was an old man who wore the robes of the Hokage, and in his arms was a small figure. It was a small boy with blonde hair who wore civilian clothes which consisted of a blue t-shirt and black pants. The old man was holding the boy in his arms, and the boy was hugging the old man through his small hands. Then the wind stopped, and the thunder ceased its roaring. Thank you Jiji, F4E, ever, Rithing, said the small figure, who began to tighten his hold on the old man. The old man all but smiled, and a lone tear fell down on his face. He all but did the same as the small boy, and just held tighter to the boy, but gently. And with that, the storm continued its tirade, the smiling face of the old man, never wavering. It was a bright morning for the people of Konohagakure no Sado. The sun shone brightly from its place in the heavens, and the sunlight bathed the scenery and houses of the people. It seemed that the storm had stopped and had been replaced with sunny weather. Slowly, the old man woke as the sunlight had radiated from the window to his still smiling face. Then shifting his head, he looked down and saw the small child still wrapped in his arms. Then the small child also stirred and woke up. He rubbed his eyes and looked up at the old man, then smiled. Good morning Jiji. Naruto was now seen holding the hand of his surrogate grandfather as they both walked the streets to the Hokage Tower, despite the glares and dirty looks. Then when they both reached the front of the said tower, the guard slowly parted and bowed before the old leader who himself bowed to them also. When they walked inside, the old man was greeted with different greetings from each worker in the tower. Good morning Hokage-sama. Good morning Sandaime-sama. Then as they drew nearer to the office, a woman who looked middle-aged suddenly rushed to them and bowed humbly. Good morning Hokage-sama. Then she stopped as her gaze drifted to Naruto and she sneered, but Naruto just gave her a glare. Excuse me, Hokage-sama, but why is it here? As she said this, she continued to sneer at the small boy. Then just after she said this, Naruto whispered, Iro Adinamos, impious mulier. Be weakened, wicked woman. Then the woman fell to her knees, clutching her head. The Hokage seemed shocked and then turned to Naruto, who was sporting a look of indifference on his face. Then the woman fainted since the pain was too much to bear. What did you do Naruto? the Sandame said, unsure of what else to say. Nothing, Gigi. I mean, what can a 5-year-old like me do? Naruto said this with an innocent face. So the Hokage just sighed and ordered an Anbu to take her to the hospital. Then they entered the Hokage's office and the Sandame sat in his big chair while Naruto sat in the chair facing him. Then Naruto suddenly had a serious expression and said, "We need to talk." Flashback. "We will train you tomorrow, but first, we will tell you the truth." Then Naruto immediately looked to Hinako, seriousness and determination shining in his little blue eyes. "As you know, your mother was an angel. However, she was a death angel." Naruto looked at her questioningly but did not speak a word. "You see, there are many different angels. Your mother was a death angel. Death angels were known for their abilities in silent killing, as well as their roles in destroying wicked souls. However, when my son, who was the leader of the angels before, made Eden and invited angels to join him, most of the death angels and a majority of all the other angels left with him. Only a few death angels and other angels stayed. Your mother's great-grandfather was one. He decided to build his own country, so here is Iden in the land of the whirlpools with the few angels that were left. However, as they were too little to start a country. Your mother's great-grandfather, Shin, decided to gather people who wished to live in a new country, and so, Yuzu no Kuni was born. However, there was a great war, and Yuzu no Kuni was no doubt greatly affected. In the end, Yuzu no Kuni was devastated, and only a few survived. These few people traveled to Konoha and began to live there. Your mother was among them and they treated her well as she was both kind and stubborn. She was the last surviving member of the Uzumaki royal family. The last angel. She grew up in Konoha and became well known. Her title was the Red Death. Many feared and respected her. She eventually fell in love with a man named Namikaze Minato who incidentally was also an orphan. They both secretly married after your father was announced the Yondaime Hokage. They eventually had you, but they kept it secret as they didn't want their enemies finding out. When you were only 8.5 months old, the Kyuubi attacked. Your father had to do something fast as many were dying to keep the Kyuubi away from the village. However, you know the true story of the Kyuubi's attack as Kyuubi himself told you. Then Naruto nodded. So your father hastily created the seal that would seal the Kyuubi in you, the Shiki Fuin. He never wanted you to inherit the fate of a Jinchuriki, but he could not bear to let some other child take that fate, so he decided thought you would be the only one worthy enough to keep the Kyuubi at bay. He really loved you, Naruto-kun, and he entrusted you with that great responsibility because he knew that you were the only one worthy enough to do so. Well, your mother gave birth to you prematurely due to the effect of having the Kyuubi's killing intent surround the village. She eventually died since the stress was too much for her, but as I said before, she truly did love you. Then Naruto rubbed his eyes as tears began to pour out, but then Hinako hugged him tightly. After a few minutes she continued, but did not let go. Then the Sandame Hokage brought you before the council, but no one knew that you were the son of the Yondaime. Only the Sandame, Jiraiya and Tsunade of the Sannin knew. Then when he spoke to the council wanted to have you killed. Those foolish humans' demand was not met however, as the Sandame immediately refused such a foolish requests. However, while the Sandium was not there, the foolish humans placed restricting seals on you just to make sure. They trashed the last wish of the Hokage by celebrating the heroic death of the Yondaime, but at the same time they beat you, the legacy of their hero. I am very disgusted. Then Naruto hugged her tightly, then turned to her, a solemn look on his face. Don't worry Hinako-ni. Though they are but foolish humans, there are some who are not. Naruto smiled. He was no longer a brain-dead idiot, but his full potential was there. I understand what you mean Naruto-kun. Now let me continue. I said that you were a celestial angel, right Naruto-kun? Naruto nodded slowly, not quite understanding. Celestial angels are the highest of the angels. However, though they are highest, they are not arrogant fools or power-hungry people like those humans. Celestials are very calm, happy, and serene. They each special abilities and among the angels, they are very rare. They are treated with the utmost respect, but even though you are not treated respectfully, the angels will immediately respect you. We Celestials have great potential and different abilities. Control over nature, a spirit bond, and healing abilities are but some of the abilities we have. So I will train you in the way of the celestial angel. Flashback end. What about, Naruto-kun, the Hokage said uneasily. I want you tell me who my parents are. Naruto said seriously. What, Naruto-kun, your father died. Why don't you tell me the truth Jiji, Naruto interrupted. The Hokage sighed and then said, okay then Naruto-kun. Then he dismissed the Anbu and then activated the privacy seals that prevented anyone from seeing or hearing what was going on inside. Your father was Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage. Then Naruto smiled, I know, but tell me about him. The Hokage suddenly looked in shock at Naruto. How'd you know? Well, your father was a brave, loving man, and I want you to understand why I gave you your mother's surname. You see, your father had many enemies, especially in Iowa, because of his participation in the Third Great Shinobi War. He was known as Konoha's Yellow Flash, and in the war, he earned this title by annihilating squads of Iowa ninja by using one of his techniques, the Hiraishin, Flying Thunder God. That is why I gave you your mother's surname. To protect you from your father's enemies. I see, Jiji. Thank you for telling me. Now about my mother. Your mother's name was Uzumaki Kushina. She was a refugee from Yuzu no Kuni, which was destroyed during the war. She was a very stubborn, yet caring, woman, and she was well known. Her title was the Red Death. Wow, that sounds amazing, Jiji. So did they by chance leave anything for me? The Hokage laughed, then opened a secret compartment hidden in the wall and took out 2 scrolls. These scrolls are scrolls from your father and mother. It can only be opened by a blood seal and by a spirit seal. For the blood seal, you must place a drop of your blood on it, and for the spirit seal, inject some chakra into it. Then Naruto took the 2 scrolls into his small hands and smiled toothily, thanks Jiji. You're welcome, Naruto. Then the Hokage suddenly remembered something and took out a scroll from a hidden safe, also hidden in the wall, and gave it to Naruto. This is a scroll that your mother and father wrote. In it are the basics of being a ninja, as well as some very interesting information about certain things. Then Naruto took the other scroll in his hands, but seemed to be too much to carry, so the Hokage took out another scroll. He then took the 3 scrolls and sealed them inside the smaller scroll and gave it to Naruto. I've sealed all the scrolls into this small one so that you can carry it. It can only be opened by a blood seal. I have not personally read any of those 3 scrolls myself, but be careful. Then Naruto pocketed the scroll and then ran to the Hokage, gave him a hug, then smiled, thanks Hokage Jiji. I'll see you later. Then Naruto ran out of the room and the Hokage sighed as the door closed, then took out an orange book from his now unlocked cabinet and began to silently giggle perversely. So my parents really did care, even my dad. Naruto thought as he ran out of the Hokage Tower and to the Hokage Monument, where hidden behind the monument was a narrow valley. Flashback. Your training will be hard, but in the end, you alone will profit immensely. Naruto nodded, agreeing with Hinako. So now that I have told you about your mother, you'd also want to know about your father, right? Then Naruto began to nod and nod and nod until Hinako herself put her hand on his head and then she smiled. Your father was Namikaze Minato, the Yondaime Hokage. He was also an orphan like your mother and grew strong. He was trained as an apprentice by Jiraiya of the Sannin until he was nominated to be Hokage. He also has a bloodline, the voice of the wind. This bloodline greatly complements your other bloodline, the gift of the angel or the heavenly gift. Your father's bloodline allowed him to develop the Hiraishin, since he had not fully inherited all of the abilities of the voice of the wind. You, however, inherited all of the abilities of this bloodline. The voice of the wind allows you to speak to the wind itself, which is where it got its name from. Also, the wind can communicate with you, and once mastered, you will have supreme control over the wind. However, due to the restricting seals placed on your body, you were unable to access your bloodlines, but once I removed them, you were able to utilize them. I will also aid you in learning to fully utilize your bloodlines, so don't worry. Then Naruto thought for a while and suddenly voiced a question that had just passed through his mind. What will Kyuubi do? Oh, you'll find out soon, Naruto-kun. Just rest for now and be ready for tomorrow, Hinako said before she disappeared completely. As Naruto ran to train behind the Hokage monument, one thought went through his mind. Maybe Kyuubi will tell me today. Then as he arrived there, he immediately went into a lotus position and began to meditate. Then he was greeted with the familiar surrounding of that beautiful meadow. When he turned his head, there he saw Hinako sitting amidst the flowers. However, Kyuubi seemed to be asleep as he leaned his back against the solid bark of the tree, which was a few feet away from where Hinako was. Then Hinako stood up, as well as Kyuubi, who was stretching his muscles after his nap. I see you have gotten enough information from the Sandaime Hokage and that you have taken your parents' scrolls. Naruto nodded, showing that he did indeed do so. Then it was the Kyuubi's turn to speak. So kid, you've been wondering what I'm going to be doing. Well, Hinako-sama here will teach you how to properly utilize your bloodlines, right? Naruto once again nodded, but gave a questioning glance when Kyuubi chuckled a bit. After he stopped laughing, he said, well, kid, let me explain something to you. You see, due to you being the former Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, your body absorbed some of my chakra. So because of this, you now have the ability to perform demonic abilities, let's say. Naruto looked at Kyuubi then nodded thoughtfully. Well, because of this, I will be teaching you how to properly use these abilities for good use. But Kazunai, Naruto said hesitantly. Kyuubi smiled upon hearing the kid's name for him, as he remembered just how he received that nickname. Flashback. While Naruto slept, he thought of all those people who truly cared for him. Hinako ni, Hokage Jiji, those masked people, and Kyuubi. At this moment, he had unconsciously said, "Thank you Gigi for everything," without noticing it. However, in his mind, he immediately landed in his mindscape, which was now a beautiful meadow, and ran to Kyuubi who was against a tree, sleeping. Then Naruto, who was now openly crying, ran to Kyuubi and began to hug the sleeping figure. The sleeping figure immediately woke and was surprised what the kid was doing. "Thank, why you?" Naruto said, but sniffing as he said this. Then Kyuubi smiled, a genuine smile, and hugged the little boy back. "You're welcome little kid, don't worry." Then Naruto continued to cry, and then Kyuubi finally spoke, "My name's Kazuki." Then Naruto smiled at Kazuki and then snuggled into his arms and muttered a faint "Kazunai." Flashback end. But Kazunai. Won't my mother's bloodline negate this? Actually there is no taint or difference. It's just like receiving more power. Oh okay then Hinako ni. So is that a Kazunai, Naruto said, tilting his head to the side. Kazuki laughed and then shook his head, saying, "No, Naruto-kun. I will also train you in your endurance, agility, strength, speed, stamina, willpower, and in your control, though I doubt you'd need help for that." "What do you mean Kazunai?" Hinako then spoke, "Allow me to explain. You see Naruto-kun. Normally those with smaller chakra stores have easy control, while those with larger stores have little to no control. However, normally, angels adapt well and gain control of their energy faster than normal, and considering the fact that you're a celestial, getting full control over your nearly unlimited energy won't be too difficult. It will still take hard work though since just having full control would be cheating. Then how do you recommend I train my control then Hinako ni?" "Well, both Kyuubi and I have different solutions. But we'll both help anyway." "I see. Can you explain more please?" "I will first give you the easy exercises in gaining control. The humans should know of these techniques. Tree walking, water walking, and weapon balancing." "Weapon balancing, tree walking." Hinako then sighed before elaborating, "Tree walking is walking on the tree, using its bark as your own surface. You will be able to stick by placing energy on the soles of your feet just enough, then walking carefully up the tree. Too much and you will fall, but too little and you will also fall. Now weapon balancing is causing all types of weapons to float in the air above your hand, for example. Using your energy, push the weapon up from the palm of your hand like so." Then Hinako, who held a leaf at the palm of her hand, caused a leaf to float from its position on her palm. Naruto marveled at it and then smiled, waiting for Hinako to further explain. "I advise you to start with a small rock, then a kunai, then shuriken, and then senbon. I say it in this order because the smaller it is, the more difficult it will be to cause it to levitate. I see." Then Naruto took a leaf and holding it at the palm of his hand, the leaf began to float slowly, not as high as Hinako had done, but nonetheless, he was still able to levitate it. Then smiling, Naruto exclaimed, "See. Look Hinako ni, Kazunai, I'm doing it." Hinako smiled, while Kyuubi just pat Naruto's head and then smiled, "You're getting it, just keep practicing, and soon enough it will be easy. Now about my training, I want you to train your agility, speed, stealth, and stamina. Your strength will need to wait, though I will get to that soon enough. I want you to prank people." Naruto then sweat dropped and said, "Prank, why?" "Well, it seems stupid, but setting up the prank will indeed increase your mind capacity, as well as help you in strategy and planning. Each prank requires creativity, which you will keep boosting as you continually prank people. As people try to chase you, you can improve your stealth, agility, speed, and stamina by seeing how long you can hide, how fast you can hide, and how much stamina you have to keep going on. And above all that, you're going to be having fun." Then Naruto smiled and began to think carefully. "I don't want to have an emotionless kid who does nothing but follow orders like a robot. We're building up your character and good judgment." Naruto nodded, "So I'll just prank people and do those control exercises that Hinako ni told me to do." "No, not just that, you see, there is a wise saying knowledge is power. I'm sure you understand completely what that means, right?" Naruto looked sort of unsure, but nodded nonetheless. "Simply we want you to read and study." Then Naruto fully understood and looked to Kazuki about something. "I need to learn how to read though. Actually, being a celestial allows you the ability of omnigualism. The ability to understand every language as well as being able to adapt. That's so I can read and write already." "Well, not exactly since this ability has not yet fully awakened, but at its stage, you will be able to understand more clearly, so I would just need to teach you, but I wouldn't exactly have a very hard time." "Okay, and besides your human language, we will teach you the other languages." "Other languages?" "I will teach you the angelic tongue, Latin, and Kyuubi. I will teach you the demonic tongue, which is similar to the angelic tongue. Also, because of the spirit bond that all celestial angels have, you will be able to speak to animals. So animals are going to start talking to me." Then Kazuki laughed at the concept of that, while Hinako just shook her head. No, not like that, it is not really understanding of their language, but like I said, it is more of a spirit bond, so you will be able to understand animals more clearly and the same for them, though not all of them will speak to you. I see, so is that it. Actually kid, one more thing, when we said for you to read and study. We want you to read and study as much as you can. As much as I can. We are simply saying we wish for you to seek knowledge, not just in one subject, but in all. From cooking, to human anatomy, history human, demonic, and angelic herbs, sewing, fishing, art, strategies, psychology, medicine, mathematics, biology, animal science, prophecy, and so on. And if you complete your training well, I will make you a knowledge seeker. What's that? They are a type of angel, such as celestial and death angels, and are special angels called knowledge seekers. Their roles are to seek knowledge, both good and bad, and then archive it in the great library. If you gather enough knowledge, you may be allowed entrance there. Wow, that sound awesome. But how am I going to get all of that knowledge? Then both Hinako and Kyuubi smiled. We will teach you the Kage Bunshin, shadow clone. Back at the Hokage Tower, a certain old man sneezed while completing his paperwork. Curse you, Minato, you never told me how you beat this dreaded paperwork, the Kage Bunshin. It is a technique that allows you to create a clone of yourself, but it is not like any other Bunshin. Normally you would not be able to perform this technique, but considering the fact that you extremely large chakra stores, you are more than able to do this technique, so we will teach you. Then Hinako whispered, Tyrannus Alacritas, temporary animation, and right before them an image of a person appeared. Now watch closely Naruto-kun, I've created an illusion to show you how to do the Kage Bunshin. Naruto nodded, then watched in anticipation. The illusion was of a man who looked like a normal ninja. The illusion brought its hands together in a cross sign, then exclaimed, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shadow clone technique. Then next to the illusion, smoke suddenly burst out, and when the smoke cleared, there was an exact copy of the man in the illusion. Big Zimmo, release, said Hinako. Then the illusion faded away. So did you watch closely? Naruto nodded and then copying what the man did, he put his hands together in a cross shape and then said, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Then there appeared 10 Narutos from the smoke. Kazuki and Hinako looked impressed, and Kazuki actually clapped. Very good kid. That technique is a Jounin level technique, since it takes a huge amount of chakra to maintain. Now this technique holds with it many benefits. Kazuki, please demonstrate its benefits. Kazuki nodded, then signaled for one of the clones to follow him. Both of them walked behind the large tree that Kazuki was undoubtedly having a nap on earlier. From behind the tree, they could not be seen from Naruto's viewpoint, and after a few seconds, something exploded from behind the tree, leaving a trace of smoke. Kazuki then appeared back in his place, right in front of Naruto. Then Naruto suddenly jolted and pointed a finger at Kazuki. You hit me. Then suddenly he realized what he had just said and asked, how? That is one of the benefits of the Kage Bunshin, once a clone is dispelled, the original person will gain all of that clone's knowledge. This technique is very useful if done properly and will help you in your knowledge seeking. So, I could just make some clones, get them to read books, dispel them, and then I'd get the knowledge. Yes. Yada. Naruto jumped in the air as Kazuki laughed and Hinako looked amused. After Naruto got back on the ground, Hinako spoke, however, you must be careful in using this technique, since dispelling all of your clones at the same time may prove to be too much for your mind to handle. So when dispelling clones, dispel them in groups of 3, so that your mind will not be overloaded and so that you will not receive a migraine. Arigato, Hinako ni. Now listen kid, though the clones may help you in that area of expertise, you must build up your physique and stature alone. The clones only help with your mind, only through hard work will you be able to train physically. Hi Kazunai. I will value hard work. Good. Now that all's in order, you can read those letters from your parents now. Naruto smiled and was about to leave when Hinako stopped him. Wait Naruto-kun, Hinako said, as she held his arm, remember to train physically, study hard, complete all those control exercises, and well, one more thing. Meditate. Meditation will help with your control, but I do not mean like ordinary meditation where you clear your mind, but just enter a state of peace and calm, and then just listen to the environment. This will help you greatly since this type of meditation can be practiced anywhere. Hinako then let go of his hand and smiled, be careful out there. And remember both Kazuki and I will be watching. Naruto nodded, smiled, then faded away. The kid will achieve great things no, Hinako-sama. Aye, it is true. Naruto opened his eyes and looked around. He then realized that he was back at the hidden place behind the Hokage mountain. He carefully stood up and putting his hands together in a familiar seal, said, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. At that, 35 clones appeared and then bowed to their original, who simply smiled and said, 10 of you please practice the tree walking exercise, another 10 of you practice the water walking exercise, another 10 practice leaf balancing, and the last 5 of you meditate. As he said this, he was pointing to the trees of the surrounding forest, to a lake just near the trees, and to a clearing which was full of leaves. The clones nodded, then began their tasks, while Naruto unsealed the scroll after placing his blood on the blood seal. Only one scroll came out, which was his father's scroll. Placing the smaller scroll back in his pocket, he opened the scroll entitled to him from his father, by placing a blood seal and a spirit seal by both placing his blood and then channeling some chakra into the spirit seal. To Naruto, "Hey Naruto. How are ya? You're probably Genin or something, right? Well, I'm sorry for placing this huge burden on you, but I could only trust you, my son. The Kyuubi no Kitsune was unfortunately sealed into you on the day of your birth, and my last wish was for you to be treated as a hero, but that wish was probably ignored. Anyway, since I haven't got long now, I'll just come straight out with it, you have a bloodline, 2 to be exact, 1 from me and 1 from your mother. I'm not exactly sure if you will activate both, but I will tell you anyway. You see, my bloodline is called the Voice of the Wind. However, I am not able to fully activate this bloodline, so instead I improvised by creating a technique called the Hurration, but that'll have to wait for now. This bloodline allows full control and manipulation of the wind. Well, it's almost time, so before I finish writing this, I've placed 3 scrolls within this scroll. 1 for our clan's techniques, which I know you'll be able to master, 1 for my Hurration technique, which I know you will improve, and lastly 1 for my other created technique, the Rasengan. However, this technique is not yet completed, but I know that you'll finish it too. Well, time's short and time's a waste, and so before I write goodbye, I want to say, I love you Naruto, your mother and I love you very much, and we want you to know that we believe in you. By the way, Jiraiya and Tsunade of the Sannin are your godparents, so I know that you are in safe hands. We love you son, love, your father. Namikaze Minato. P.S. Reseal this scroll by saying Fu and I was a seal's master. As Naruto read the letter, he noticed that there were teardrops, and after reading all of it, he cried. Not in sadness, but in joy. They really did love me. Then after Naruto finished crying, he resealed the scroll into the originally small scroll and took out his mother's scroll. To Naruto, hello Naruto, this is your mother, Kushina Uzumaki. I'm writing this for you, knowing that you will receive it gladly. Unfortunately, I feel as if I'm going to pass soon. Right now while I write this letter, there you are in my stomach, only 7 months old. No one knows that I am writing this letter, not even your father himself, but I felt that it was wise that I write something to you in case I'm not there. If I'm there, then I guess I would be happy, but if not, then I guess you'd be crying. I'm sorry if I'm not there Naruto, but I know that whether or not I'm there, you'll be able to shine like the light you are. I also write this letter to tell you of something important, your bloodline. Or 2 actually, considering the fact that your father also has 1. My bloodline that I'm sure you will inherit is known as the heavenly gift of the angel. You see Naruto, the Uzumaki clan descended from real angels and well, I'm one too. This bloodlines gives you amazing abilities, but it all depends on what type of angel you are. You see, there are many different types of angels, but despite the differences, I was told that we lived in harmony. I am a death angel, but I'm not so sure about you. If you are, then congratulations. If you are not, I still say congratulations. Regardless. I've left in this scroll 4 scrolls. 1 about the Uzumaki clan history, 1 about the Uzumaki clan techniques, 1 from me about the techniques I've created, and lastly 1 with my weapon. Palxton X Angelus, the scythe of the Death Angel. This weapon of mine has been passed from generation to generation. The original holder was my great-grandfather, who was the head of the Death Angels. All information on this will be on the scroll. Now remember this, I will always love you. Love, your mother. Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto once again smiled, but did not cry. I must be strong for my parents. I will show the world their legacy. Then he confidently resealed his mother's scroll and took out the last one. To Naruto. This scroll will give you the basics, and in time if you are deemed ready, the scroll will change its instructions to more difficult ones. You see, this scroll is guarded by a guardian spirit, and to see this spirit, you must call upon him. If you are able to do so, then you are more than worthy of this scroll. We love you. Your mother and father. Namikaze Minato and Uzumaki Kushina. And so Naruto began with his training as he called upon the guardian spirit of the scroll, Hustadus Ili Cientia, Susatatio. Keeper of this knowledge, awaken. To be continued. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If yes, then make sure to drop 2 red and a blue heart to show your love. Remember to subscribe.